You are listening to Bare Naked Bravery. My name is Emily Ann Peterson. I'm a singer-songwriter and I'm a creative consultant and I'm host of our little podcast here. I'm also the founder of this thing called the School of Bravery, which is a place for creative visionaries and basically conscientious and conscious business owners and other creative folks to learn how to apply some of these things that we talk about in this podcast to their business and their projects and their creative endeavors. It's basically a learning lab for you guys. So we'll say that is today's official sponsor of the show. And today we're going to be talking about let me say it correctly first. Is imagination insanity, and how we can think beyond our current realities without abandoning the facts and truth, because facts and truth are important. I definitely advocate for them. And before we get into all of that, I just want to update you. I have been having a great time on tour. Last week, I was in Dallas doing some workshops for eating disorder treatment facilities and teaching them all about the 12 ingredients of bravery and talking about what bravery looks like in their own eating disorders and the recovery from those eating disorders. It was just so amazing. Such an honor to get to do that. And it looks like I'm going to be writing a song about recovery and a song for those people, because that was one of the things that came out of those workshops. So I'm excited. I'm actually really can't wait to write that song. So we basically made all these word clouds in the workshop, and I took pictures of the word clouds, and we'll use some of those words and images and imagery in the song that I will write for them. And then they get the demo of the song before everyone else does and all that good stuff. Speaking of demos, if you are one of my patrons, then there are going to be some new songs popping up for you in the patron library, which is basically the membership portal for all of my patrons of my music and other fun creative things that I'm doing. So if you're a patron, keep your eyes and ears peeled for that, because that's coming up soon. So this week I'm in Austin. I've been in San Antonio and I had some really amazing shows in San Antonio. And because of that, that is one of the reasons why this little mini episode is a little bit late this week, because, when you're traveling and you're on tour, internet access and quiet rooms to record podcasts are a little bit hard to come by, but I'm all right with that because we can be patient and creativity and communication happens when it's supposed to happen. So, hello today. So let's talk a little bit about the insanity of imagination, because sometimes it feels like it's totally impossible. There is part of the imagination that when you are completely in the throes of things, for instance, the women in these eating disorder treatment facility workshops that I was giving, it was really hard for them. And I remember the way that this felt. It's really hard when you're in the thick of an intense amount of constraints and limitations to your life. It's really hard to think outside of the box. It's really hard to think outside of your current reality. And you kind of need to be able to do that in order to take next steps towards progress, towards growth, towards bravery. When we are unable to take those steps, we really sacrifice the momentum that we could have. And it's understandable, of course, because constraints and limitations are a reality. And I am an advocate for facts. But I think there's three things I wanted to say today. The first is that it's important to be really honest about those constraints, because if you're muddy about what the constraints really are, or you think the constraint is one thing, but it's actually another thing, and you haven't discovered that yet, then you might be like swimming upstream in order to get yourself out of a funk. So for instance, I'll just be real with you. If it's like PMS for me and I'm just really sad and melancholy about something, I might be sad and melancholy about that thing, but sometimes there's something else that's causing me to be a little bit more emotional that day. Maybe it's the stars, maybe it's the moon, maybe it's my internal cycle, maybe it's the food that I've had that day or that week. They just make me kind of feel uneasy or not great. In general, food has a tendency to do that with me. I've been noticing sugar does that to me more and more. I think as you get more sensitive to the friction in your life, which we'll talk about that in a second, you start to notice more things. So I actually think sugar makes me feel sad. It's very bizarre. I've never heard this before. But there might be other things that are causing that constraint for you. So looking really deeply at some of these constraints is one of the first steps to thinking outside of the constraints. There's something that's really beautiful about being able to go, okay, well, we have $10 left in the bank account. So how can we get more than $10? There's something that happens in your brain when you let that part of your brain going, oh my gosh, $10, $10, $10, $10, $10, $10. If you take a minute and listen and go, yes, I hear you. Great. Okay. Duly noted. And then you crank and turn down the volume of that thing that's screaming at you after listening to it. It feels heard. Now it can participate in solving the problem rather than just screaming at you about the problem. So taking a minute to be really honest about the reality of your constraints is one of the first steps in being able to step forward in that. I mean, in 12-step programs, that's like the first step, right? Acknowledging that you have a problem. So I guess we need to take it as students of bravery. We need to take that one step further and not just acknowledge that a problem exists, but really understand the problem, understand what the constraint is, look at it from all angles, because when you look at it from all angles, it's going to give you new perspectives on how to approach thinking outside of that box from a different way, or in a way that you've never thought about it before. So the second thing is listening for the friction. When your life feels really tight or limited and not very optimistic, if you get really centered and can be very sensitive for the friction that you encounter on a minute by minute basis, you are going to really understand like the insides of those constraints. If you are being honest with the constraint, you can look at your whole situation from the outside and kind of get like a bird's eye view of it. But listening for that friction and feeling that internal friction, like, oh my gosh, this person really agitates me, or yikes, I'm feeling really anxious, or oh my gosh, I really need to take a nap, those kinds of things. Those are symptoms of friction in your life. If you can sense that friction, that's another way of internally acknowledging where the constraints are like impinging upon your optimism or upon your hope or upon your opportunities or possibilities. And by listening to and using that friction, you can actually find new possibilities to move forward and new choices and new opportunities. So step 2, listen for the friction. And then the third step, which is pretty great. I mean, especially in the realm of bravery, and especially when we consider the existence of resonant bravery, like that third party bravery that we talk about a lot. If you're unfamiliar with that, then go read my book, because there's a whole big section on it and it's amazing. It's so wonderful. So this third step that I want to talk to you guys about, especially in regards to thinking beyond your current reality, is looking to other people, like looking to other realities, because other people have different experiences than your own. They might be better, they might be worse, they might just be different. And when you can look at those, when you can take your gaze off of yourself and off of how weird and awful or overwhelming your situation may feel, if you can look to others, you can say, oh, look at how easy that is. Granted, just know that comparing yourself to other people, you don't know the full picture of their bravery. You don't know what it took to do the things that they're doing. However, it does get you sometimes jolted out of that negative downward spiral that we can get in when we're when the constraints are impinging upon us. So this is all part of this month's theme in the School of Bravery, and in this month's podcast episodes, we're talking about defiant expectation. Because when we can look to others, and when we can see that in other industries, people do things differently, in other communities, they do things differently, in other stories, these constraints have looked and they've reacted to these constraints a little bit differently. You can even look to fiction, works of fiction, or other parables that exist. Those constraints, those stories, those instances of other versions of defiant expectation will help you bust through the norm of feeling held back by constraints and feeling held back by your own limitations, or even feeling held back by your own current reality. So remember, I am still a huge advocate of facts and reality and taking wise steps in light of facts and in light of realities towards something hopeful and towards something bigger and better for yourself. Sometimes it takes really hard decision-making skills, but if you can listen for the friction, and if you can be honest with your constraints, and if you can look outside and look to other people's stories and other people's basically reactions to constraints and limitations, then it'll probably spark some ideas for you about how you can think beyond your current set of reality. And in regards to the question of, is imagination insanity? Insanity is doing the same thing over and over and over and expecting something different. So if you have a current set of reality and you are just trying the same thing over and over and over again to get through that, then yes, that is insanity. So if we look at things in that respect, then imagination is not insanity. Imagination is actually hope in action towards something beyond the set of limitations and constraints that you have on yourself. So I am very much an advocate of real things. I'm very much an advocate of imagination and having hope, and especially having defiant expectation. So this month we have so many things, because this theme of the School of Bravery is the bravery ingredient of defiant expectation. It's all about defiant expectation this month in June. And next week, we've got the defiant expectation of recovery. We're talking with Jessica Flint of Recovery Warriors, all about eating disorder stuff. It's perfect timing. We're also going to talk about how to transform stubbornness into a strength, because that is definitely a part of defiant expectation. And we're going to talk about how to manage stress and your own expectations as an entrepreneur. And we're talking with Benjamin Dell, who is founder of a bunch of different tech startup things. And he's got a lot of awesome things to offer and really real experience as an entrepreneur, especially within the realm of having defiant expectation within your business. Those are all the things that are coming up this month. So get ready. It's going to be a good month. And with that, I just want to let you know, I'm still giving away 200 free website audits. So if you have a website and you want some expert outside advice on your little bit of bravery in the internet, then you can go to emilyannpeterson.com and then scroll down, and under the School of Bravery section, there's going to be a button for signing up for your free website audit. So also that link is available in the show notes as well. So sign up for your free website audit. It's basically a 45-ish minute call where we talk about some of your goals and the things that you're looking for in your business or in your project, specific project related. You don't have to be a business owner. It can just be like the blog that you run and that kind of thing. We talk about kind of the state of the union. We then look at your website and I comb through it with some of my expert copywriter knowledge and my creative consultant brain. We take a look at those things, and then you get some homework and some easy tweaks to make to your website, and possibly some next steps too. And if you are interested in becoming a student of the School of Bravery, then that website audit qualifies for your application to become a student. So it's really cool. There are no strings attached. I really am just truly trying to understand what it is that my fellow creative visionaries are looking for in their websites. I see a lot of really crummy websites out there, and this is just me trying to do my part to make sure that my colleagues and friends and my community is not sticking their foot where it doesn't belong, you know? So part of my defiant expectation that the world can be a better place, the internet can be a better place too, and your business can also function a little easier with a piece of the internet that actually works for you. So that's that. It's been really fun to be doing those website audits. So if you're interested, sign on up. There are only 200 of them that I'm doing for free. So once we get to 200, then I'll start charging for them, because they have been truly wonderfully valuable. You get a recording of the whole thing as well, so you can rewatch things and listen to yourself say brilliant, wonderful things. So they've been lots of fun. Okay, that is today's show. I'm so excited for what's coming up in this next month. So keep your ears peeled. And thank you for your patience in the publishing of this episode, today's episode. I really appreciate that. Y'all are great. And I want you to know that we need your bravery. We need you to be yourself. We need you to be vulnerable, be imaginative, be improvisational, because the world needs more of your bare naked bravery.